Would you believe it? The Pro Football Today crew here and in color on SportsGrid. Kevin Walsh, Joe Lisi, the countdown to kickoff is on. We are so close to the beginning of the NFL season. A month away, Joe, from Cowboys, Eagles, and we're going to cover all the in-between as we wait for kickoff.
Yeah, it's not college football, but hey, there's nothing better. This is what it's all about. We're about a month away. Training camp, a lot of storylines. We see the Terry McLaurin, Micah Parsons stories breaking throughout the week. What happens with that? And some teams looking to challenge both the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC and, more importantly, your Philadelphia Eagles, best team on paper in 2025.
Well, listen, they're going to have an opportunity to showcase that out of the gate as the defending Super Bowl champions in week number 1. They host the Dallas Cowboys, but the lead story around the National Football League is when that game happens, will Micah Parsons be on the Cowboys? If anything, even if he is, will he be on the field to play a little bit of catch-up? Micah Parsons has been trying to make a deal with Dallas seemingly for over a year at this point. Yet every single day we wait without a deal. It actually puts more money into Micah Parsons' pockets, and I think that's why there's not necessarily been a huge rush from his side. Jerry Jones has decided to take this from like a level 2 panic to like a level 8 maybe, bashing Micah in the media, saying he doesn't talk to the agent. I think he threw Dak under the bus once or twice for good measure. And Micah Parsons finally had enough and requested a trade, saying he no longer wanted to be a Dallas Cowboy. Lisi, what is your reaction to the latest in the Lone Star State?
It's not good right now, but if there's one owner that could pay Micah Parsons, it is Jerry Jones, right? And when you see Max Crosby, Myles Garrett, and T.J. Watt get their money, Micah Parsons, in his view, is deserving of getting similar money, right? And we saw the situation play out with Dak Prescott. They waited right down to the wire, and Jerry pulls the trigger and makes him the highest-paid quarterback in the NFL right before kickoff week number 1. I think the situation will play out. But to Jerry Jones's defense, he's playing these players, and they're not stepping up and getting playoff wins. That's the most important thing. When you look at the team as a whole, and I understand Dak Prescott went down early, that defense didn't take over. They gave up 137 rushing yards per game, ranked 29th out of 32 teams. Micah Parsons, 12 sacks, 13 sacks over back-to-back years. But I'll say it, show me the game where he really took the game over against an opponent over 500. Did he win games solely with his play? And I'll say no, and I think that's what Jerry Jones wanted. If we're going to pay these guys, you have to step up and take the team to the next level, and now he's lighting a fire under him and everybody else on the Dallas Cowboys.
Well, look, credit to you. We found the one person who is seemingly defending Jerry Jones a little bit within this entire process.
Shocker.
The thing is, Joe, the way Jerry plays these things, he still ends up paying these guys.
Right.
And he's costing himself and the team money by delaying them. He cost them money with the Dak situation. He cost them money with the CeeDee Lamb situation. And he's if Micah Parsons ends up at Dallas Cowboys, it's not going to be at a discount. It's not going to be 37, 38 million. He's going to come over the top of the Myles Garrett, TJ Watt deals that have all been getting done. So here's my thing then. If we're going to take what you're saying, then this trade request should be a godsend for Jerry Jones. Perfect. I've been waiting to trade Micah anyway. He's not getting the job done. Jerry doesn't want to trade Micah Parsons.
No, he doesn't. But
because he's a fantastic football player, one of the 5 best guys on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I get that.
Okay.
But here's the thing. For money for Jerry is not the issue.
Well, there's a salary cap. It's not coming out of his back pocket.
No, but Jerry will pay if he believes that it's worth it. He wants to play it out. And again, Micah Parsons is supposed to be the face of the franchise on the defensive side of the ball. We're making him out like he's LT. Reggie White. No, he's a very good player. He's not dominant. Yes, he is the best defensive player on the Cowboys, and they need him to be happy and healthy if they're going to have success. But at the same time, if I'm paying you $40 million over X amount of years or 45, whatever he gets, I want to see results, not just in the regular season. I want to see you lead this team to a playoff win, and they haven't done that yet.
But here's my thing, Joe. What happens when this ends with what a lot of people believe, them paying Micah Parsons? then what was the end game here from Jerry?
Again,
He just making Micah earn it a little bit more?
Maybe, yeah.
When he ends up giving him the richest contract for a non-quarterback in league history?
Jerry likes drama. Good, bad, or
ugly. But
ugly.
that's the problem. We have now seen this situation play out where the only way to describe it is a desire for drama. So who's better for it? And again, Micah didn't want the drama. I don't think Micah Parsons asked for this to drag out in this way and request a trade out of Dallas.
No, but he is vocal. He has the podcast.
Sure
he makes a lot of news, and he brings the hype. He's got the podcast, right? But Jerry's at the end of his rope in the sense of he's got an $11 billion franchise, 11 plus, right? Yeah. Probably the richest franchise in all of sports if he decided to sell it. He wants to see dividends. You can't go out there and lose to Jordan Love as a 6.5-point home favorite and get blown out in your building. You can't win 16 straight home games and then come out of the gate last year with or without Dak Prescott and lose games at home and limp to an under 500 record. He wants to see results. And again, if it's lighting a fire under Micah and that defense and that team as a whole with a first-year head coach, he's going to do it.
So I think, bigger takeaway is I actually would really appreciate if we could have a player request a trade and then be traded, because otherwise then this is all nonsense. See, I come from the NBA world, where when we request a trade, we're getting out of town. All right? Hey, what's that? Houston, you don't want to deal me? I see you in Brooklyn. Shout out Jimmy Harden. He might need to start doing some agent work in the NFL. And this to me feels like one of these situations. I don't think Jerry Jones is really all too interested in caving. I really don't.
No.
And Micah Parsons, I don't think he ever wanted to request a trade. Like, I feel as if we're going to talk about Terry McLaurin in a moment, but I feel like Terry's like, all right, I have nothing left here to do. Myles Garrett, I still don't understand what his angle. He's like, I want to win Super Bowls. They're like, how about $40 million? He's like, I love it here. The weather's actually great in Cleveland. I believe Parsons a little bit more, and I wonder, Joe, and you can speak to this, he did sit out that COVID year, right? When we think about college football. So he's someone who's been away from the game for a season and kept himself obviously in incredible shape and was an incredibly impactful player from day number one in the NFL. I don't think Parsons missing games. I would be very surprised if they did trade him, but I think Parsons missing week one against Philadelphia is absolutely on the table.
It's possible. I mean, if his agent is in his ear and saying this is what you have to do to get your money, you have to be more proactive and you have to play chess with Jerry Jones, he'll do it. But again, at the end of the day, it comes down to Jerry being one of the richest owners in the league, knowing what he wants, not being afraid to pay these players to produce, but now it's put up or shut up. And again, we'll see how this situation plays out. But again, I still think they'll play it out over the next couple of weeks. Week one, if you had to ask me right now, I think it's 70-30 he's on the team and lined up against the Philadelphia Eagles Thursday night.
And here's what I would say. I think that those are really fair odds, Joe. There's just no reason that it would be a 30% chance or even a 10% chance that the best defensive play, regardless of what you think about Micah next to some other guys, around the league, a Bosa, a Garrett, a Hutchinson, whatever, that defense without Micah Parsons looks to me like probably the worst in football. If you remove him off that defense, I don't think we're going to be all that stellar, even if he is on the field. And this isn't a team who's interested in being bad, so it just sets up for one of the most unnecessary situations in football, but that is how Dallas occasionally feels determined to do these things. We're going to be with you here for the next hour on SportsGrid. Joe Lisi and Kevin Walsh. We're going to get into Terry McLaurin, the NFC East, and a look back at the Hall of Fame game. We had football. We had Trey Lance. We'll talk about it with you here on SportsGrid.
Just more and more smoke, leading to the fire that is Keegan Bradley being on this team as a player. Yeah, I think we're all expecting it at this point. And, Keegan, he knows he can't play poorly in the playoffs. Like, he knows he needs to keep momentum going. And if he continues to play well, he's going to be on this team.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
Christopher Sanchez of the Philadelphia Phillies is one of 3 Major League Baseball pitchers to have a 7-start span featuring an undefeated record, a sub-1.5 ERA, 50 or more innings pitched, 50 or more strikeouts, fewer than 5 walks, no more than 1 home run allowed.
Fantasy sports today, only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high. But the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that ring. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
Just a little flyer, couple of 18.5-point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. It's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
One big problem for NBC, too many on-air cooks for the coverage, particularly on the weekends. Having 4 on-air teams separate time, divide the time, was really outrageous. You had Mike Tirico and his partner. You had Dan Hicks, NBC Sports' lead golf commentator, and his partner. You had Steve Sands from Golf Channel and his partner. And you had Terry Gann, who, by the way, if you don't know, is going to become an NBA play-by-play voice.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Pro Football Today with you here live on SportsGrid. Kevin Walsh and Joe Lisi and the NFC East offering up a couple of trade requests. Terry McLaurin wants his money. 82 catches last year, just under 1,100 yards and 13 touchdowns. By far the best of his career. His prior 3 seasons combined, he went for 14 receiving touchdowns. I guess that's what happens when Jaden Daniels steps in, elevates a receiver here, Joe.
Yeah, you're finally talking. I love what you're saying because you're right. He had incompetent quarterback play, 5 straight 1,000-yard seasons, 13 yards per reception. Clearly the pure number one. Really came on at the end of the regular season with Zach Ertz to lead the victory over Detroit in the divisional game and then challenge your Philadelphia Eagles in the championship. But he's 29 years old, and I think that's where we sit when we look at Terry McLaurin as being a pure number one compared to Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson. You get the best year of his career last year. Is it going to really progress over the next couple of seasons? I think it's worth it. I think if you're going to sign him to a 3 or even 4-year deal, you get lightning in a bottle for 2 seasons with Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin. That's worth the money, in my opinion. But again, without him, what are you going to do? Now, I saw the trade request this week with Tyreek Hill potentially. You know, Miami getting a draft pick and Tyreek Hill shipping him to Washington for Terry McLaurin. I actually don't think that's a bad decision for both teams. You get an experienced wide receiver in Tyreek Hill that should be dialed in with a contender in Washington, and Terry McLaurin might get his money with Jalen Waddle over there in Miami. Again, Miami's in a complete rebuild right now. I don't think they're going to challenge. I really don't. We could talk about that. But
no, we can, but here's the thing. I don't think Miami enters this season thinking it's a rebuild season. I think Miami has to have a down season in order for them to fire McDaniel as you want. And also, Joe, if it is a rebuild, then why am I going to pay Terry McLaurin? That would be my pushback there.
I understand that, but you look at that team as a whole. I think New England's better. I think the Jets are better. I think Buffalo is better.
Well, there you
they
go.
have the potential to be a 4 or 5 win football team this year.
If Tua suffers more injuries, they're going to struggle mightily. I agree with that. And that offensive line is not good in Miami. Again, but here's my thing. I think what's important to me, takeaway-wise there, is even in talking about moving off of Terry, your mind goes, okay, well, how do I replace him with Tyreek Hill? Micah Parsons is better than Terry McLaurin. He's more impactful to his football team than Terry McLaurin. But I don't think Dallas is going to be all that good anyway. The Washington Commanders are a team that could win the Super Bowl.
Right.
They could, if Jaden Daniels gets another step better, if some of that secondary comes together, if they hit on the Deebo Samuel trade, hit on Connerly in round 1. But if you remove McLaurin, well, now what am I relying on outside of a sophomore quarterback, right?
Right.
This team cannot afford to just not have Terry McLaurin out there.
I agree 100%. The biggest thing is he's a locker room guy.
Yeah.
He did it without talking until this year, right? He was one of the main reasons why they made it to an NFC championship. He stepped up in playoff appearances, has a great quarterback to wide receiver relationship with Jaden Daniels. I would pay Terry McLaurin. But if Washington isn't going to pay him, I think it's a viable option to look at Tyreek Hill. The reason why is if Miami's under 500, you think Tyreek Hill's going to be checked in the first half of the year?
Absolutely
So if I could catch Tyreek Hill and an experienced playmaker, that benefits Jaden Daniels, and then Miami gets a locker room guy that they could have for 2 or 3 seasons.
The thing is, I don't think that Washington is interested in them not being ready to pay Terry. I'm not sure they're going to want to bring Tyreek in. Tyreek comes with some question marks.
He does.
Of his own here. So this is why if you're Washington, you're in a very difficult spot because the time to pay people is also now when you have a star quarterback on a rookie contract in the way that they do with Jaden Daniels. This is just not a team who I feel enters it into this situation with a ton of leverage. Because I don't know, again, on this roster, nobody loves the running back room. You know that's true. We don't. That's not a high-level running back
Running
room.
back by committee.
Yeah.
But they have 4 guys that can do it. McNichols, Austin Eckler, Brian Robinson, and Rodriguez.
I understand that, but it's not a top half of the league running back room. And these are things that are credit to Daniels, right? Again, Deebo, I think, is an X factor. I think he's a swing but I don't want Deebo to be my number 1. I want the safety net of McLaurin in front of him. And behind those two, Michael Gallup, didn't he retire? I don't know what's going on. Luke McCaffrey, KJ Osborne.
Hey, big third down receiver for Jaden Daniels sometimes.
So I think for me, that's where this is a Washington team that I could look. That team was in the NFC Championship game last year, and there wasn't 1 second where I thought they were going to play in the Super Bowl. This year, I think you could convince me of a world where that. Yeah, I actually.
See, now I take the other. I'm going to shock you. I think they slowly regress. I'm not suggesting that they're not built to potentially make a playoff run. I just think that there's a lot of pressure on this team. You do have some aging superstars, right? Mm-hmm. Wagner, your Deebo, Zach Ertz. Yeah. Are you going to be able to channel that to an NFC championship? They're not coming up on anybody anymore. You're not going to be a 9.5-point underdog to Detroit on the road anymore. You're expected
touchdown favorite week 1.
But that's what I'm saying. So now they have to live up to the hype. And again, with the inefficiency of the rushing attack on a consistent basis outside of Jaden Daniels and his legs, that's a lot of pressure for him. So, yes, I agree. For them to have great success, McLaurin needs to be in that lineup. But if they decide we don't want to pay him, I think a viable option, if they can catch him, is Tyreek Hill. And the only reason why I say that is in Miami, they start 2-4, he's going to check out. You're going to see it. Yeah. He's going to be walking through the motions.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. I still think a Washington, if the financials work of it, you'd love to be able to add Tyreek Hill on top of what you're doing and be like, look at what we are able to bring to the table now on a week-to-week basis. I think you look at the McLaurin situation, look at the Michael Parsons situation, and it brings your eyes to the NFC East odds. And those odds include the reigning Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles and a team that not many people are willing to speak optimistically about in the New York Giants. We'll talk about our outlook as we sit here early August after a quick break on SportsGrid.
Can you handle the heat? If you don't mind the desert at the hottest, consider visiting Vegas in the summer, where the temperatures are high and the prices are low. Have fun! See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Christopher Sanchez of the Philadelphia Phillies is one of 3 Major League Baseball pitchers to have a 7-start span featuring an undefeated record, a sub-1.5 ERA, 50 or more innings pitched, 50 or more strikeouts, fewer than 5 walks, no more than 1 home run allowed.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
Luka Doncic lands the cover of Men's Health magazine. Let me say that again. Luka Doncic lands the cover of Men's Health magazine. I mean, that's noteworthy because Luka Doncic was seemingly traded away from Dallas because the Mavericks weren't sure if he was ever going to get in shape enough to deliver on his full potential.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
I like Payton. I like Jeremy Payton. I think he's a nice player, but really, look at this offense. You're shocked that they win games 2-1. I mean, they're an under machine. Solid pitching, even though half their staff's on the injured list still. The bullpen's solid, and they can't hit a lick. They average what? It seems like they average 3 runs a game, but somehow they run off 10 in a row. They're 10 games under, and then they're 20 games over 500. How does this team do it? That's just in them, though.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
In 2021, the Philadelphia Eagles won the NFC East. They did it again in 2002, 2003, 2004. Since then, as everybody knows, we have not seen repeat winners in this division. It is absolutely remarkable. It sounds like the type of thing, I'm just realizing in real time, that would drive you crazy. Someone being like, yeah, I'm not back in Philly. Nobody can repeat. And you'd be like, all right, you're a wheel. Give me Philly, Philly, Philly. The thing is, though, it has been going on for over 2 decades now at this point. Which parody. I think that there's something to it, right? So when you see Philadelphia booked at a minus price, do your eyes divert to another team, or what do you make of the Eagles?
No, I think the Eagles are the best team in the NFL, hands down. And again, you know this. I'm a closet Eagle fan, I guess, because I believe in the talent on the defensive side of the ball is dominant enough that barring any major injury to Jalen Hurts, Saquon, they're going to be there. Again, that defense can carry them to the next level. And for me, when I look at the price at minus 140, I think it's cheap. I actually would put them at minus 230, 240. I think they're that dominant in the division. Even though I believe in Jaden Daniels, I don't believe in the defense as much, obviously. The game that they beat the Eagles, Jalen Hurts goes down after the 14-0 lead. They get blown out in the NFC Championship. Unless you're telling me they're going to have a dominant front seven like Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis in that group, I can't bet any other team to win the division. I just can't. I think the Eagles have the best price not only in the division to win a Super Bowl as well.
Yeah, I think with Philly, it is difficult to repeat, first of all, Super Bowl winners, but clearly within this division, the schedule is difficult. That is a real thing. And, look, they could navigate it pretty well, but also I think this team winning 10, 11 games is a job well done back in the playoffs. Can someone have a great year is the question ultimately to get in front of the Philadelphia Eagles. I think that's the part of it. But I think what's starting to happen now is just the chaos around them. Again, Parsons trade request, McLaurin trade request. What are we doing?
Yeah.
Your most non-quarterbacks. Could you argue those are the 2 most important players on those teams? You could make that argument, right? And then you have a Giants team who, I'll be honest with you, Joe.
Let me hear this.
Listen.
I can't wait to. I'm sitting down.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I kind of like what they're bringing to the
Oh,
table.
boy.
I kind of like what they're
All
bringing
right.
to the table.
Okay.
I mean, the defensive line is fantastic. There's no arguments there, right? Maybe you're not. I don't know. Are you in on this Abdul Carter?
I mean, I think Abdul Carter has the potential to be a star, just the way Micah did his first year.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no doubt that Abdul Carter is a playmaker. Again, the issue that I have, and you could tell me why you believe it, is the coaching staff, and we'll get into that.
Well, this is the problem. I've always kind of thought Brian Dable's a good coach. And I know that these past years have been rough, but also, look, the guy had Daniel Jones as his quarterback and has clearly been then given lesser play than that. I mean, Tommy DeVito, listen, I understand I'm speaking on family there, but, like, come on. I mean, come on. Like, we do this thing. I think you'll appreciate this. Rodgers shows up to these football teams when you go, well, he's going to be better. He's going to be better. Well, that's true of Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson, even if I wish they let Jameis keep the job or, you know, were willing to play dart, Russ is going to be. Russ could arguably be the best quarterback Brian Dable's had as the head coach of the New York Giants.
It's possible. And if he channels what he had, the 400-yard performance against Cincinnati, and they allow him to throw 40 times a game, you can get competent quarterback play to potentially lead you to an 8 or a 9-win season. I don't think there's any doubt that they can challenge their win total. The problem that I have, and they've done, let me just say this, Joe Shine and Dable have done a fantastic job recruiting young talent, Tyrone Tracy, Neighbors, Theo Johnson. It's where they are in terms of the actual, resume. Fourth year in, this is where you're at now. This is where you have to make a decision. Are they going to be a playoff team? What if they're 4-6 after the first 10 games? And then because Dable is on the hot seat, he goes with Russell Wilson, doesn't develop Jackson Dart. And that is the problem that they have, though.
So here's the real problem. This is just quickly how their schedule starts. Washington, Dallas, Kansas City, the Chargers, the Saints, the Eagles, the Broncos, the Eagles again, San Francisco, the Bears. I mean, they have a tough schedule. What? I don't know.
Here we go.
They've got my interest.
Bye.
They've got my interest. We'll be right back.
Can you handle the heat? If you don't mind the desert at the hottest, consider visiting Vegas in the summer, where the temperatures are high and the prices are low. Have fun! See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Christopher Sanchez of the Philadelphia Phillies is one of 3 Major League Baseball pitchers to have a 7-start span featuring an undefeated record, a sub-1.5 ERA, 50 or more innings pitched, 50 or more strikeouts, fewer than 5 walks, no more than 1 home run allowed.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
Luka Doncic lands the cover of Men's Health magazine. Let me say that again. Luka Doncic lands the cover of Men's Health magazine. I mean, that's noteworthy because Luka Doncic was seemingly traded away from Dallas because the Mavericks weren't sure if he was ever going to get in shape enough to deliver on his full potential.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
I like Payton. I like Jeremy Payton. I think he's a nice player, but really, look at this offense. You're shocked that they win games 2-1. I mean, they're an under machine. Solid pitching, even though half their staff's on the injured list still. The bullpen's solid, and they can't hit a lick. They average what? It seems like they average 3 runs a game. But somehow they run off 10 in a row. They're 10 games under, and then they're 20 games over 500. How does this team do it? That's just in them, though.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Pro Football Today here with you on SportsGrid. Joe Lisi, Evan Walsh, the month of August. We are close. We are getting close to the start of the NFL season. We had our first taste with the Hall of Fame game, which featured the Detroit Lions and the LA Chargers. And I got to tell you, Lisi, I don't know about you, but I entered into that game with a lot of confidence. I really did. I was excited about it. I said, don't force it, but don't run from it. This Lions team's got something going into preseason action. I laud Hendon Hooker. You know the Hen Dog helped me out a couple times during his time in Knoxville. I felt like we had something. I really did. And then the opening kickoff was a fumble. Next thing you know, it was 7-0. Then there was a missed field goal from LA. I thought, here we go. And like 2.5 minutes later, it was 14-0, and it ended up 34-7, and the Lions got rolled. And I largely thought the Lions would step up because of, I was betting on their quarterbacks certainly more than I was betting on the LA quarterbacks. I also thought Dan Campbell had something to prove because of all the talk about who's gone from that offensive coaching staff and even the defensive coaching staff with Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn now being head coaches. Well, maybe we learned something here. Maybe. I mean, it's a Hall of Fame game, but, boy, the Lions looked awful. I mean, they really, really did. Where are you right now on this Detroit Lions team with all of this turnover?
Good, not great. And here's where I may shock you. And we did learn something. Kyle Allen is absolutely terrible. He should not even be a backup quarterback in the league. 91 yards, 2 interceptions, going back to his days at Texas A&M. When I look at this team, and you look at the playmakers that they have offensively, Goff, Jahmyr Gibbs, St. Brown, and Jamison Williams, they could score with anyone. Are they going to be as explosive now without Ben Johnson? Even though it might be the same system, might be the same scheme, when you have a new OC, new DC, that's a huge test to overcome. And Philadelphia started 10-1 a couple of years ago and limped to a 1-5 record at the end of the regular season and got knocked and bounced by your Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Right? You know that as well as anybody. And people will say, well, it doesn't matter. They're on the staff. Yeah, but coordinators need to understand how that talent responds. They have to call a game plan around that talent, and they have to get into a rhythm. And sometimes that can happen a couple games in. It could happen a month in. Might never happen. And that's where I think the inconsistency can lie in the Detroit Lions as it relates to a 15-win football team, number one in the NFC like they were last year. I think they have the potential, believe it or not, to be a 10-win football team. I think potentially Green Bay could catch them in the division. I really believe that. And I would bet at 2-1 that they have a better shot to miss the playoffs than make the playoffs. I'm willing to make that bet because I think there's a lot of pressure on this team. And we're not talking about, hear me out, San Francisco or Philadelphia, a storied franchise. We are talking about the Detroit Lions that have had success under Dan Campbell. They haven't won a Super Bowl, haven't even played in it. They got to the pinnacle, had San Francisco dead to rights, and they can't put them away. And now they lose last year after the first round, number one seed, and now there's pressure on to get back there. I think they're regressing.
Yeah, I think the Philly comparisons, it can kind of go both ways because there's this expected step back. We know there's offensive line exits, right? Jason Kelce had retired for Philadelphia. We know that. We saw the Ragnow retirement, plus Seidler moving on as well, joining Tennessee. There's the coordinator overhaul. There's a defense that was really, really bad, but I look at it, Joe, and there's a lot of room for improvement with the double safety pairing. Terrion Arnold, who was supposed to be very good at Alabama, could maybe get a year two leap. Getting Aiden Hutchinson is important. They spent their first-round draft pick on a defensive tackle in Williams out of Ohio State. So I don't worry about Aaron Glenn's departure as much because I just think there's more talent ultimately. And I don't know if I was ever fully sold on Aaron Glenn, the defensive coordinator, even if I think he can be good for the Jets. But the difference is Philly's coordinator turnover 2 seasons ago is because they had to fire everybody because they were all bad. But when Philly lost coordinators because they were great in Gannon and Steichen, they were awful. And that's the comparison for what Detroit walks into. And that's where the offensive line stuff is a little more concerning because now what if Jared Goff doesn't have the protection, or the overseer in Ben Johnson. Here's the reality on Jared Goff. His rookie season, he looked like he might be the worst player to ever be selected first overall in the history of football. That's how it looked.
Yeah.
Then Sean McVay showed up, and you go, okay, McVay's great, but also Goff did have pedigree, so maybe, give Goff some credit. And then we rewrite history, as I watched Jared Goff get ranked in front of Jalen Hurts somehow on these lists, because L.A. moved on from Goff because they didn't think they could win at a high level with him. We pretend like that didn't happen. And he's now played 4 seasons in Detroit. And it's very easy to figure out which one he played without Ben Johnson, because it is easily the second worst season of his career. 37 touchdowns, 12 picks, 4,600 yards, and completing 72.5% of his passes. That's how he ended his time with Ben Johnson. Before Ben Johnson got there, 3,200 yards, 19 touchdowns to 8 interceptions, completing 67% of his passes. His QBR, his passer rating, all as bad as they could have possibly been. I don't think I'm willing to bet on Jared Goff. And if you want to bet on the Lions, so I've made a list, Lisi, of teams I'm considering as my Super Bowl pick, and Detroit's on it.
Okay.
But they're also the first team I can tell you I'm going to cross off that list because I can't bet on Jared Goff.
Well, yeah, I'm with you in the sense of I just don't believe the OC and DC are going to live up to that expectation, and Jared Goff is turnover-prone at times when he struggles. Go back to that game against Houston. They win that game, right? But he throws 5 interceptions against a very good defense. Coordinators can elevate a quarterback to a different level. Yeah. And I'll make a similar assessment. Cincinnati, when they made it to the Super Bowl a few years ago, right? Losing organization, right? That makes it to the pinnacle. They don't win it, but then they get back the following year to the AFC Championship, don't win it, and look at where they're at now. Now, granted, injuries played a part in that, but still, that's another example of a losing organization that made it to the pinnacle, couldn't win a Super Bowl, and now they regress to a point where we're hoping they could bounce back to where they were just a few years ago. When you look at Dan Campbell and you look at Detroit, it's like they had their window. That's the way I believe it. You got as much out of Jared Goff in that passing attack as you possibly could with Ben Johnson, and you couldn't get to a Super Bowl, and now you're expected to get back there again with a new OC, and that's where I say no.
I think what's interesting, too, for Detroit is how this season begins, Joe. If you take a look at those first 6 games, 4 of them are on the road. Green Bay, Baltimore, Cincinnati, and KC.
The gauntlet.
I mean, to go through all of these changes while playing a very, very difficult schedule, it's not going to make life easy. Now, some of it could also come down to how you feel about the rest of the North, right? The thing is, it's a division that it's not hard for anyone to find a different team. You might not find the same team. Maybe you like Green Bay. Maybe I like Chicago. Maybe another person likes Minnesota. But you won't be hard-pressed to find a different team to like other than Detroit. That's when it's very difficult to play in a deep division like they're in.
And that's why I think the 10.5 is right there. I think whoever wins it is going to be 10-7 overall. I think it's going to go back to the days, like we said, black and blue division.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely possible. Let's put a spotlight, though, on really the star of that Hall of Fame game. Very noteworthy player who so far has not had a noteworthy career. Trey Lance. Maybe? Talk about it next right here.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune in to Game Time Decisions weekdays on SportsGrid.
The game is on. The stakes are high. But the action isn't just on the field.
Rearranging that rim. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
Just a little flyer, couple 18.5 point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. That's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip, try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Pages. Let's get lucky.
Back with you right here on SportsGrid. And what were your expectations heading into the Hall of Fame game?
I mean, I watch it because it's football. I was with you. I took Detroit in an in-game plus the 10.5 because of Hooker.
Yeah.
And he didn't step up. But, but again, expectation is just watching the second and third teamers step up.
Okay.
College guys.
Did you think that Trey Lance was going to go out there and throw multiple touchdown passes?
No, I heard it all week. Oh, Jim's going to coach up Trey.
Yeah.
Jim's going to coach up Trey. It's the preseason. It's much better than the 5-interception performance he had last year with the Dallas Cowboys, where
okay.
you know, and that's why he's on his third team in basically 6 years, right? You know, could the possibility of Trey Lance having, you know, a resurgence and getting back to where we saw Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold, it's possible. I mean, the longer that he's in the league, you would hope that he would develop. I mean, but I didn't expect him to be. I don't expect him to be a starter in any time soon. Do you?
I mean,
come on.
All right. Here's my thing. Here's my thing with Trey Lance. I never fully understood why the Niners gave up on him, because when you think about all they poured into him, no, I think the answer to that is probably they just wanted to move on to Brock Purdy and let Brock Purdy feel comfortable as the guy for that organization. But here is the interesting thing about the quarterback position, and I think when you also tie it into some of the college exits due to the COVID rules,
right?
Trey Lance is literally younger than Bo Nix.
Yes.
That is wild, because I think the people who are in on Denver, I don't know if you are one of them, but the folks who will be in on the Broncos this year will be talking about a year 2 leap for Bo Nix, how Bo Nix has time to get better. And I'm not saying Bo Nix doesn't have time to get better, and I understand that you can be a young 25 or an older 25, depending on the time that you've had. I just look around the league, Joe, and we've seen guys get second chances in Geno Smith and Sam Darnold. I see certain organizations running out starting quarterbacks they shouldn't be running out. Joe Flacco, Tyler Shuck. I'm sorry, but you're telling me the New Orleans Saints season makes more sense where they spend a top 40 draft pick on Tyler Shuck instead of giving Trey Lance the season? I don't think that makes any sense.
Well, it depends on the mindset of the organization. Now, I agree with you on a couple of things. I'll say this, that I think when they made assessments on quarterbacks and evaluations, it used to be we need to know if this kid could start within basically 16 games, 17 games.
Yeah.
Either you get it or you don't, a la Zach Wilson. But I think there's also a lot of hype that goes with these quarterbacks, that they're given first-round grades because it's not a deep quarterback class, and scouts and GMs will fall in love with somebody and will pump this guy up to be a first-round selection, and he's not worthy of that grade. And I'll keep going back to Trey Lance, when he left North Dakota State, had a completion percentage of 63%. North Dakota State, as you know, football factory at the FCS level with Carson Wentz and his success, and they were making him out to be the second coming potentially of him, and he was an RPO guy, but, when he stepped up against better competition, the numbers weren't that great. He shouldn't have been the third overall pick in the draft, quarterback-wise. He should have been more of a second or a third-round pick. And the expectation of that, I think, hurt him. But that's the problem, is that we put these grades. Malik Willis deserved to be a third-round selection, but the media and the GMs pumped him up to potentially be the first quarterback selected. Will Levis is another example. Pumped up to be a first. He never should have been in the conversation.
Listen,
and that's what happens.
Yeah, Levis, I was never going to. I think Trey Lance is tricky, Joe, because it's tricky when you get guys from the FCS level, right? I just think that that's the case. And if you remember Trey Lance, we just didn't even get a lot of football out of Trey because there was some, weird stuff got moved around their season. Right. They hadn't played a full year.
The COVID year ruined college and the NFL, development-wise, and you can give them that flyer.
I guess my thing is, we see quarterbacks, if they were drafted high enough, get second chances.
Absolutely,
right?
Yes.
Like, I would argue Trey Lance was almost never given a first chance because he couldn't take the job off Garoppolo in his first year. But, okay, there's no harm in that. And then he got horrifically injured his second season. Purdy was good. He never played another game for the Niners. He didn't play another game for the San Francisco 49ers. You mentioned Wentz. And, look, Wentz had an MVP-level season, but just Wentz had a chance in Indianapolis. Wentz had a chance in Washington. Heck, Zach Wilson was given like 100 chances at least by the Jets. I look around the league, and I do not think that I don't know what the Browns are doing. Or
you don't think Kenny Pickett falls into that category?
But I guess Kenny Pickett does a little bit. But again, Kenny Pickett also had a full season in Pittsburgh.
But that's one full season. Like, again, with
Lance,
that offense.
Like, how many starts does Trey Lance have? It's less than 10. He's appeared in 12 games. Starts, he's probably at like 5.
But because of the
youth. For a third overall pick.
You're right. But because of the youth, you're willing to take that flyer, right? You're willing to say, with another organization, we could develop him to the potential of maybe he can be a starter. Obviously, if Justin Herbert goes down, we have a competent backup. Is he ever going to be a starter in L.A.? No.
Well, not ideal.
Right. So for him, but if Jim could develop him, get him to where he's successful, he could be like Daniel Jones now.
So,
Daniel Jones has an opportunity.
But even that, I don't know. I think I'd rather Trey Lance competing with Anthony Richardson than Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones is bad.
He is bad. Well, yeah, but he's still better. I'll say this. And we're going to argue he's a better pocket passer than they are. I'll give him that.
Yeah, but the Colts drafted AR for what AR is. It's like they drafted him and they're so confused. They're like, "Where's the rest of the college tape?" It's like, he played a season. What are you talking about?
57% in college.
I think they were playing video games. They got an early copy of the college football or something, and that's why they drafted Richardson. Let's put our eye towards this upcoming week of preseason action next right here on Pro Football Today.
Can you handle the heat? If you don't mind the desert at the hottest, consider visiting Vegas in the summer, where the temperatures are high and the prices are low. Have fun! See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Christopher Sanchez of the Philadelphia Phillies is one of 3 Major League Baseball pitchers to have a 7-start span featuring an undefeated record, a sub-1.5 ERA, 50 or more innings pitched, 50 or more strikeouts, fewer than 5 walks, no more than 1 home run allowed.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
Luka Doncic lands the cover of Men's Health magazine. I'm going to say that again. Luka Doncic lands the cover of Men's Health magazine. I mean, that's noteworthy because Luka Doncic was seemingly traded away from Dallas because the Mavericks weren't sure if he was ever going to get in shape enough to deliver on his full potential.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
I like Payton. I like Jeremy Payton. I think he's a nice player, but really, look at this offense. You're shocked that they win games 2-1. I mean, they're an under machine. Solid pitching, even though half their staff's on the injured list still. The bullpen's solid, and they can't hit a lick. They average what? It seems like they average 3 runs a game. But somehow they run off 10 in a row. They're 10 games under, and then they're 20 games over 500. How does this team do it? That's just in them, though.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Pro Football Today with you on SportsGrid. Kevin Walsh and Joe Lisi. And the first week of preseason action is coming up, and there's a couple of games that I think if you are going to be locked in on, or at least hey, okay, what happened here, it'll involve some of the star rookies. And I think this is probably the spot where you start to see the Cam Ward conversations bubble a little bit. There's been, the most you hear about Cam Ward is how people say no one's talking about Cam Ward. No one is talking about the first overall pick who Tennessee selected. They'll be in Raymond James against Tampa Bay. They are currently listed as a road favorite in that game. Is there anything you're looking for, Joe, from Cam Ward in his first preseason action?
Poise. Don't turn the football over and get your team in a position to score points. And we'll know if it's Cam Ward from college or Cam Ward in the NFL. If he's very comfortable in the pocket, he's extending plays with his legs, he's looking downfield, that's the Cam Ward that you want to see for the Tennessee Titans. If he looks a little tight, doesn't know where to go with the football, pump fakes a couple of times, and he's hesitant, that's a cause of concern. And now, I'm not big on Tennessee big picture because I think wide receiver-wise, they have a long way to go and a major rebuild. There's not a lot of playmakers around them. But Cam Ward, as long as he looks comfortable in the pocket, that is all I need to see when this game plays out.
Yeah, I am curious if I know this may lead to some eye rolls. I don't know if the number's right for the game, where it's a clear Cam Ward boost, but it's also the first preseason game. I'm not sure he's going to play, more than a half at most, and it might be less than that. The game is still in Tampa Bay. There's no depth behind Cam Ward to speak of. I mean, it's I think Brandon Allen and Tim Boyle are his backups. Now, maybe I'm speaking too favorably of Kyle Trask, who's going to likely get the lion's share of the work for Tampa Bay. But, look, people are going to bet these games. Let's be honest here, and that's just something to look for. I just wanted to bring up, Joe, what I think is maybe what will end up being the most watched rookie preseason performance, assuming he's out there in the mix. Travis Hunter. Jacksonville's at home against Pittsburgh. We haven't been able to kind of reconnect on some of this stuff. Where are you at on two-way Travis and how the Jaguars are going to deploy Colorado's own?
I think it's 80-20 offense to defense. I don't think he's going to be out there for a long period of time on the defensive side of the ball. I think they drafted Travis Hunter to be the secondary option to take away from Brian Thomas in double teams. Again, I think he can get 900 yards with Liam Cohen and Trevor Lawrence as long as he's healthy. I think this offense could be explosive. I mean, you look at their playmakers at every level, running back, wide receiver and what they have now, hopefully in a resurgence of Trevor Lawrence with Liam Cohen, I think Travis Hunter could eclipse the 909.25 that he puts up. But I think it's wide receiver first, and then secondary is nickel situations on the defensive side of the ball. If it's the other way around and it's 80-20 defense to offense, that's a problem.
Yeah, I think you will see him do both in this game.
50-50?
But the amount he's out there might be so small that, for the game, it might be 50. He might do a drive on each, and that might be it. Maybe he'll do, 2 drives offense, 1 drive defense kind of thing. But I think even for this coaching staff, they just might want to feel this out a little bit of when do we put him in, when do we take him out, and get their own reps with it. Last one I'll ask you about, Joe. We get a little Pete Carroll versus old team in the preseason, which also means we're going to see Ashton Genty, we would think, for the first time, Raiders Seahawks.
Yeah, and I want to see exactly how he looks as well, right? I mean, I don't think he's out there for more than a quarter or maybe a couple of drives. You want to give him the rock against NFL competition. See, they want to run the football. You know that with Pete Carroll. He wants to have offensive balance, but he's got to get used to the NFL game speed, and I don't think with Chip Kelly, giving him a couple of drives is out of the realm of possibility. I do feel when you look at Seattle and you look at Las Vegas, similar situations. I know Sam Darnold is there, but I'm not high on Seattle this year. I'm not. I think at best maybe a 7 or an 8 win football team. You ship DK, to Pittsburgh. It's a lot of pressure on this team right now.
Yeah, I don't like how the offense is set up at all. I think the defense has a chance, though, to be really, really good. I like Mike McDonald. I think Tank Lawrence could be a nice addition playing next to Big Cat Leonard Williams. So it's the inverse of the Dallas Cowboys. I think the Cowboys' offense could be fantastic. I think their defense is set up to be pretty bad. I think Seattle looks like the inverse of that. We'll see what we can glean from this preseason action, and we'll start to get you ready here on Pro Football Today. For Joe Lisi, I'm Kevin Walsh on SportsGrid. We'll see you next time.
I have to think long and hard about whether or not you're a Hall of Famer, you're not a Hall of Famer. I don't need to argue stats. I don't need to argue whether or not you are great. If Ichiro Suzuki is not a Hall of Famer, we don't need to have a baseball Hall of Fame. Like, just pack it up and shut it down, because that guy was as good of a hitter as we've ever seen. And he was unbelievable from the first time he stepped onto the field for the Mariners until the end.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Edge rushers. That's where it is right now. And I think Myles Garrett is in a class of his own. I think TJ Watt's right there. I think Micah Parsons is right there. Certainly, those guys are very, very good. Myles Garrett is in a class of his own. He just absolutely is. When the advanced stats about the double team rate, his quarterback pressure rate, all of that, he just stands a notch. I don't want to say a big gap, but he stands a notch ahead of those guys.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
He'll be your reserve, your extra guy here. Listen, we all need that. I say this all the time about outfielders. Most leagues, I don't know about your league, but we start 5 outfielders. Even if you're in a 10-team league, that's 50 outfielders. Plus you got some guys at utility. Plus you got some guys on reserve. 70 outfielders are gone. All right, so outfielders are extremely valuable here. And Moniak, if he's available, is a nice guy to pick up right now.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
I feel they're all completely justified. The numbers, they're nearly identical. And speaking of identical, I don't know if you saw that one, Craig. That was pretty wild. From winning their first major to winning their 4th major, both Tiger Woods and Scottie Scheffler completed that task in exactly 1,197 days. Both of them, in the exact amount of days, won their 4th major.